What's up, comicbook.com? Vita here, back in the studio at San Diego Comic-Con. The show goes on right now. I'm very excited because we have the cast, producer, and director of Hulu's Prey in our studio, the next installment of the Predator films. This is super exciting. We're going to talk all about Prey, but first I want to talk a little bit about Comic-Con. Has anybody been here before? Is this anybody's first time?
First time for me.
First time.
Been.
You've been to Comic-Con before?
Comic-Con.
Have you been out on the floor at all?
No.
Whew.
I've never been on the floor, actually.
Okay, well,
I've only been like in this capacity.
Well, welcome back, and welcome for the first time, everybody else. I do want to geek out with you guys a bit first. This is like the mecca of comics, movies, TV. We're here to celebrate Prey. We're here to celebrate a lot of different elements of geek culture. Do any of you geek out about anything that you think you might see here, or have like collections at home? It's like, oh, I could possibly add to that with something from the floor.
I'm a big... Oh, Dano, you...
Everyone looks at me.
He's the vet. He's the
Dan,
vet.
talk to us.
Yeah.
I mean, in years past, I've come for Gundams. I've done the like early running from booth to booth to get the exclusives. And when I was a little kid, not to San Diego Comic-Con, but in Philadelphia, Comic Fest, I went to go get like Jackie Chan and John Woo movies that weren't released, and screenplays and stuff like that. The screenplay for Highlander I bought at a Comic-Con.
That's so cool.
Wow,
yeah.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
You know, anytime I see anybody in Star Wars cosplay, I think it's pretty wicked. Like, I seen a Mandalorian somewhere yesterday with Thane, and like the clone troopers are always really cool. I haven't seen one of those yet, but I think that'd be cool to see.
Oh, they have the full, they have the costumes down there this year on display.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I went by them
Whoa.
last night. It's pretty cool. Now, let's talk about Prey. Amber, your performance in the film, it's like the heart and soul and the spine of this film.
Oh, thank you.
It's awesome, and you get some really badass moments in it too. So I want to hear about when you find out you're coming face to face with a predator, this monster.
Yeah.
What goes through your head? How do you prepare for that?
You don't. You cannot. It is so impossible. Like, we had a 4-week training camp that we did, like Dakota and I and all the other boys, in Calgary before we started shooting. But truthfully, there's like no way to prepare to show up to work every day for a week and like get thrown in a mud pit or in like a river or, you know, off of at one point I was like running down a cliff or something. Like, you also can't really prepare for that.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging? Kind of in a spoiler-free way, but was there one scene that was like particularly challenging for you to, or even scary because of what went into it?
The thing I was most scared of was the river. Both of my parents, but specifically my dad, does like extreme sports, so he like river surfs and like all kinds of stuff. So I grew up around water, but I also grew up knowing like how dangerous it is. So when we showed up and like to get to the river, you like climb down, you like hike down a hill, and then you get in a paddle boat. They take you across the river, and then you walk more, and then they had built like a beaver dam in the middle of the river, and just like looking at that and watching it, because we had other stuff to shoot there before I got in. So just like watching that for days before we started, I just had like anxiety building on top of anxiety on top of anxiety, but then once I got in, it was like so fun.
Also, there was a scene in the movie, and it didn't involve any violence or anything crazy. It was the mud pit scene. Talk about anxiety. Just watching that, I was like, I'm trying to catch my breath, so that must have been...
Wait till you smell it.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Was there a scent?
Oh, yeah.
A scent?
The crazy thing, there's
talking
no
about
scent when you walk around, and before we've shot in it. And as soon as human flesh enters that, some sort of crazy chemical reaction happens, and it was the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life.
I just found this out. I just found out.
Yeah,
this
because you've only
information.
ever been in it. You're like, it always smells.
I was like, it's like this all the time. But like other people had been in it before me, and apparently this always happened.
Yeah.
So.
And then you just walked near anybody after that, and they were like, just walking away from me.
They're like, please don't come near me.
Who wants a hug? Dane, you are the predator in this film.
I am.
When you slip into that costume, man, what does that feel? Does it just feel like nobody could you can just do whatever you want? You run the show because you have these giant claws and technology. I mean,
it's interesting. You know, you kind of you're not just a guy in a monkey suit. You know, it's like it's kind of you put it on this foam latex that the guys over at ADI, Tom and Alec, did a tremendous job building this suit, but you slide in and you're not human anymore. You're invincible, and you're this trophy hunter from another planet, and you kind of transform into that. And it's all the history, and Kevin Peter Hall and following in his footsteps was an incredible experience for me. It's like I said before, still sinking in. I still can't believe it.
It's cool. I mean, and Dan, if you want to chime in on this as well, I'd love to hear about it. But like, there are shots where it's real. Like the mouth is moving. There's actual physical elements to this character. You can tell. Was there an animatronic element to the mask, to things like that, to keep it?
Oh yeah, no, it was a couple people driving the. There were two versions of the face. There was a stunt version that didn't have any motion. That was a little bit, just a hair safer for Dane to function. And there was another version that was just heavier on Dane because it had all the animatronics in it. And one of the things we added in this movie that strangely I don't think was in the other Predator films, was goop. We brought in some alien goop, the stuff that we see in the Alien movies, so the mandibles and the face and all that stuff just felt that much more violent and gross.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Dakota, you had scenes where you do come face to face with the Predator. Not going to spoil anything, but how intimidating is it on set? Does that kind of stick with you when you go lay down at night when filming's over?
Oh yeah, it's insane. I mean, being able to go, toe to toe with, a 7-foot+ beast,
Yeah.
is just pretty. It's insane, and especially it being an actual guy in a suit. I mean, because we're really getting in there.
Yeah.
And so you just might get yourself hurt if you don't dodge the right way, or if you don't roll the right way. It was a lot of fun.
And given that when the movie is set, it called for like a whole different set of like weaponry and kind of lifestyle that your characters go through. Did you guys have to like no cell phones on set to get in character? Learn anything in particular like to get in there?
I like to close my eyes a lot before scenes just to kind of
Sure.
shed everything out a little bit. But as for no phones, they're usually pretty prevalent still. No, I'm just kidding.
I did have a multitude of places that I put my phone.
Yeah, secret
There's
spots.
like
Secret
I have
spots.
so many,
Yeah.
like just places that I'll be like, oh, I hid it there in that scene, and then there in that scene. My shoe, my costume, my bag, all kinds of places.
You gotta get a
There's
selfie
lots
with
of
the
like
Predator
fun
every
things
once
to
in a
take
while.
pictures of.
Yeah, that's great. It's great.
And one day you're covered in mud. You can't miss that.
Yeah.
The scent doesn't stick with the photo.
Memories.
Jane, you've developed a pretty incredible reputation for the attention to detail you pay on sets, and also like bringing authenticity to Native American stories. I'd love to hear about what you got to kind of inject into this, given the time period that it's set in, the characters that we're exploring in this kind of terrifying adventure they're on.
Absolutely. I am Comanche, so having everybody be warriors and having that warrior spirit, and because Comanches are badass, was incredible for me. And also like everything, including language. So this is the first time that we'll actually have a full movie done in the Comanche language. And so that will go out to the world once it comes out, on the 5th on Hulu.
That's awesome. That's fun. Dan, there's an awesome sequence with Amber in it that's a continuous shot of action.
Oh my God.
And that had to be.
The wonder.
I mean, it sounds like the animatronic was a lot, the mud was a lot, but that had to be one of the most challenging sequences to pull off. How much went into it? Was like I didn't time it, but it was long enough for me to notice the camera didn't cut.
Yeah.
How much went into that sequence?
Well, that was the earliest fight scene that we developed, but it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say this first thing you filmed. I was like, what?
Oh no!
What are you doing?
First day of shooting.
No, so it took a lot of iteration and a lot of preparation, and then I think on the day it was over 20 takes, and yeah, it was hard. But Amber, I honestly, I don't know what you would say. I don't know if that was the hardest thing to train. I feel like we never talked about this after the fact, but the flipping of the tomahawk.
Honestly,
That
yeah,
move.
that was the whole thing also between you and I.
Yeah.
I also realized that like my memory blocked out part of this experience because I was telling people like I learned the trapper fight in like 3 days for over lunch, and Dan later was like, "You had been rehearsing that since."
But it
boot
did
camp."
change. It changed a lot. It really,
I was like,
yeah.
Oh no. But yeah, the like flipping of the tomahawk, and that was a whole because like my hands. There was a time where it's like my hands were unable to move, and we were trying to figure out like so much of the tricks and stuff was like also just like what is the coolest thing that each person can do with the weapon they have, and it was like Dan is such a collaborative person that it was very much open to like everybody's skill, so it was like, oh, let's find something cool to do here, which sometimes is like a daunting thing because you're like, I didn't prepare anything cool here. But like we found this thing and my hands were tied, and that honestly was actually quite small but quite challenging.
Yeah. But you really did it.
To,
I remember
like,
that was the most exciting
throw it up
thing
and
that you
flip
really
it.
did
And
that.
that took so many times.
Yeah.
But I got it and everybody cheered. That's why I knew that we'd been doing it for a long time, not successfully. I was like, oh man.
I would love to hear if you guys went back and watched Predator films and thought about, like, you know, influences or things you wanted to, specific elements of how the Predator moves, or things you wanted to represent from other actors or characters who have encountered the Predator, and bring them to the film, since this isn't a prequel, but it is still, like, it's the first time a Predator was on Earth. Did you guys try to get influences from previous films?
I love the vocal presence of the guys in the first one. Like, you know, they all have such distinctive voices. You got, you know, Billy, you got Dutch, you know, and they have these such iconic lines. And I was like, man, I don't know if I got an iconic line in this movie, but I want to do my best to see, you know, at least do my part. So the voice, for sure, was in the back of my mind.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming by the studio. I can't wait for everybody to go see Prey on Hulu. You're going to see who's at the top of the food chain in this one, and it might surprise you. Thanks to the cast and crew of Prey for stopping by the studio. Stay tuned to comicbook.com for more coverage from San Diego Comic-Con.